Today, let's talk about what home renovations are going to help you raise the value of your property if you're going to sell it. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to figure out what type of home renovations you should do for your property, depending where your property is at. Now, before you start thinking about home renovations, the first thing you need to understand is you got to know what your property is compared to other properties similar to you in your neighborhood. If you don't live in a neighborhood, the property's nearby you, and you need to see what their renovations are at and how much they sold their property for, and you need to see where your property is at and how much renovations you need to get to their level. As you can see in this example, there's 3 properties here. Now, they're all in the same neighborhood and they're all the similar build, but one is in 2020, one's from the 1980s remodel, and one's been done 10, 20 years ago, 2010s. It's important to know this because this property for 2020 was sold for $300K right here, right? This is all new stuff. Now, and this is going for $300. This 1980s property, if it was going to go on the market as is, it would be $240, $250K. Basically, this would be like a wedge deal. And if it was on the 2010, it would go for $275 to $290, depending on the degree of how well it's done inside. Now, it's important to know this because depending on where your property's at, it matters. Now, in this 1980s property, bathrooms can be redone, kitchens can be redone. Maybe you can do a lot of things on this property and it will make sense to renovate that. On this 2010s, maybe those same renovations you're going to do on the 1980s property, it might not be worth on 2010 property. The same exact kitchen remodel could work for the 1980s remodel, but if you try to do that on the 2010, the same exact kitchen remodel, it might not be worth it. So it's important to know this. So it's very crucial to understand where your property is at and what other properties are going for the neighborhood, because it can give you a good indicator in what type of renovations you need to do and what type of renovations would make sense for your property. If you just go in this blind, adding electric fireplaces, a brand new patio deck, all these crazy things, you might be spending more money than you will get when selling the property. If you do the strategic renovations, you will actually raise the value of your property and will make sense for you. Now let's go into what these strategic renovations can look like. See, the first one would be increasing your curb appeal, essentially how your house looks on the outside. You want to have a good grass, add trim or mulch if you have to. You want to have basically a good yard, clean, it doesn't look old or crappy. If you have to trim your bushes, if you have to trim the bushes, man. If you need to add new paint to the house, do that. Now, again, that goes back to the 1980s or 2010 example. Depending on where your home's at, add your paint. And the same thing with front door and garage door. If you can replace those things, those can make a huge difference. But it's important to know what the condition of your property is in. If it's really bad, replace that front door and garage door. It will be worth it. If it's okay, maybe consider looking in how to maybe repaint your front door or clean it up, sand it, or something like that can make the door look new. Consider other options. If the property looks bad on the outside, you're less likely to go inside and see what's in there. If the property looks really nice on the outside, people are going to think, oh, let me see this property. So it makes a huge difference, and consider renovating those things. Now, you don't need to add a brand new patio deck. You don't need to go crazy. Just make sure that the yard you have is in good condition. The next thing will be interior enhancements, which this would consist of paint, flooring, maybe remodeling the bathroom and kitchen, all those type of things. Adding new light switches, new door handles, all those things will make a huge difference on your property if you do them together. And it really depends on where your property's at. For that old home, a new kitchen remodel, new bathroom remodel can make a huge difference and could be the big value changes to your property. If your property's not that bad and it's okay, if you do a whole remodel when your property's not that bad, you're going to end up spending more money than you have to. So be careful on that. If you're going to do new door handles, one short tip I would suggest is try to do door levers instead of the door knobs. Those are the new trending things. Add new light switches if you have to, replace the old ones, power outlets, all those type of things. If you're going to do flooring, I would suggest LVP flooring. Those are affordable, those are cheap, and they make the property look nice. And fresh paint. You can't miss on fresh paint. Paint is one of the cheapest ones out in the renovations I'm listing here today, and it can make the place look new. feel new, and smell new. When you go into a property and smell that new paint, people will always think, oh, this has been newly done or this has been taken care of. Even if it isn't, it will make people feel like that. The next one will be lighting and fixtures. I cannot stress this enough that lighting makes a huge difference on the property also. When you're taking the photos of the property or when you're walking in, if the property is very dim, people are going to feel like this is an older property. It might have not been renovated properly, all that stuff. Because when you see a new property nowadays or these new apartments, they all have proper lighting. They all have good, nice recessed lighting that makes the property look bright. It looks good for the photos, and the photos is what brings the people to your home. Usually adding recessed lighting, if you do it in a smart way, can make sense for most renovations. If you do those things, it'll make a huge difference on the property, so I'd really consider that. It makes the property, it gives the property a brand new feel and transforms the living room, the kitchen, the bathroom. If you have to add recessed lighting and you're limited on where you can add it, I would suggest you add it into the kitchen and you would add it into the living rooms and the hallways. Those will make a huge difference, especially staircases. If you have a staircase, light up that staircase. The next one will be adding livable space, finishing your basement, maybe adding another room, separating off another room. These things could raise value. If you have another bedroom, it could probably hold a bigger family, which could raise the value of your home. Especially on the rental side, this could help you rent out to another tenant. Especially if you do it by the room, you can increase your cash flow like that. If you have an extra bedroom or more square footage, that can really raise the value of your property. People look at a finished basement compared to a property without a finished basement. People will want to go for the finished basement. So adding livable space can make a huge difference on your property, and it can definitely add value. Now be careful on how you add space. You don't necessarily need to do add-ons or additions to the property, but if you have a basement and you can finish it, do that. If you can split up a room, there's one huge big bedroom and you can split up to another bedroom or add another bedroom, do that if you're going to do a rental. Those type of things can add value to the property. Another side note that can make a huge difference, or what could be an issue for your property if you're trying to sell it, is if you have a really old AC and furnace, just be aware that could lower the price of your property. Or during inspections, the inspector could raise issues and you could end up paying closing costs if you're trying to close that deal. So depending on where your property's at, now this is especially true to the case of where your property's at, because adding a new furnace, adding a new AC might not be worth it. It might be worth just selling it as is. If you can, as a bonus, if you're able to and you can afford it, I would add new appliances such as a new stove, new fridge, new microwave, washer and dryer. Those things can make a difference. You know, when a buyer's coming to look to your property, if there's another house on the market with brand new appliances, that could be the difference for the buyer. And buyers sometimes will ask for closing costs halfway through the deal, where you're already 3 weeks in. You might as well be like, okay, fine, let me give the $3,000 because I don't want to put it on the market for another 3 to 4 weeks. It happens all the time. The buyer will get in contract with the seller, then 2-3 weeks later or a week later into the inspection, they will go and say, hey, concessions in these old appliances because it's just old and we don't want to go with this property and we're within our inspection contingency to get out of the property. So if you can, and if it makes sense, replace those things with the new items. It could make a difference on the selling point of your property. And a bonus, on another way that you can make money off your home, it might not be equity value, but it could be through rental value. If you can rent out your property, you might not have to worry about selling it out and you could be bringing cash flow each month. If you're deciding to move out, if you rent out, you could rent it out in a situation where it covers your current mortgage payment so you're able to get another one. Another way you can make money from your property is you can pull out a home equity loan out of your property and use that money to buy multiple properties. It's not exactly raising the value of your property, but these are also other ways. Renting and using your equity to buy more properties could help you make more money in the future. Before you guys do anything now, I need to stress this again. Make sure you're doing the right renovations. Talk to me. My contacts are down below in the description. I can help and suggest you what type of renovations you could do for your property and what would make sense for you given where your property is at. It really depends on where your property is at. You can see your friend with a really old house do a brand new kitchen remodel and his home has gone up in value. But if your home is newer than his and you do the kitchen remodel, it might not give you the dollar for dollar value as your friend got for his property. So it's really crucial and important to understand where your property is at and where other properties are at. And another thing I want to add is that if your neighborhood and a nice property is selling for $300K and you're in a neighborhood that sells from $250 to $300K, if you're in that $300K property situation, there's really not much you can do to raise the home value of your property to make it go $350. It's just not reasonably possible in most case scenarios. Maybe if you add an ADU in certain markets or something like that, maybe you could raise the home value by another 10, 20K. But then again, how much does the ADU cost and how much does the extra garage cost compared to that 10, 20K equity value? So again, a lot of these renovations, it really depends on where your home is, what your neighbors' homes are looking like, and what the market is looking like in your area. If you have any questions or you want to consult on what type of renovations to do, contact me down below. My contacts are in the description. Thank you guys very much, and you guys have a great day.